All right, we are here at the next video on my channel, Goalball Tournaments, portrayed by Ernst Kreuzl. Today we have the next interview for the teams who will compete at the Paralympic Games. Now we come to the USA men's team. The video about the USA men's team is already available on my channel. And now we have the interview. And yeah, I'm here with Tyler Merren. Tyler, at first, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ernst.
Yeah, and I start with my first question. And the first question is about your preparations, how your preparations are going for the Paralympic Games.
They are going as good as we could have hoped they would be. The postponement of the games really changed our plans. But in the end, it was very good for us. It gave us a lot more time to prepare. It helped us to kind of come together and put together a stronger game plan, more weightlifting, more on-court training, and we're feeling really good. We're very excited about stepping into Tokyo and competing with the rest of the nations there.
Okay, yeah. That means you look positively on the postponement.
Yeah, it's always a mixed bag, right? Like there's good and bad things about it, and obviously, outside of ourselves, I recognize that there is a lot of athletes, a lot of nations, a lot of teams that were very negatively impacted by that, and that I totally understand that as a very, very challenging situation. We as a team, our men's and women's USA team, we determined right from the beginning that it would be good for us. Like we would make it a positive thing. We would not let it negatively impact our team. So we kind of started with that mindset, and I think that's really helped us in a very strong way going into these games.
Okay, yeah. The next question is how the COVID pandemic changed your preparations. I guess in the US, it was never a hard lockdown, like, for example, Germany or other nations. But yeah, how does it change your preparations, the COVID pandemic?
It actually was for a little while. There was lockdowns. We were not able to go into our training facilities. Clearly we didn't have competitions in the US. So there definitely was some effect from it. So a couple things that it did. First, we had the entire year leading up to Tokyo, it was planned out, right? We knew what training phases we were going through, how we were cycling through our practices, and obviously that got all moved around, right? Like, so now, we extended a lot of those training phases, and reshifted some of the time frame. But also we spent a lot of time outside of the training facility because of the lockdown, right? So instead of going in and getting court time and lifting weights, our strength and conditioning coach gave us a lot of like at-home workouts. So doing a lot of push-ups and jumps and things like that in the backyard or in the basement. Sometimes we'd get together as a team out in the parking lot and do calisthenics and other things like that. So yeah, it very much affected what we were doing, but again, we always approached it from the mindset of like, we weren't going to let it damage us. We were going to be stronger for it. So changed a lot of things, but we kept it positive.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that. And another question about the preparations. I know the US is a very big country, and yeah, how do you manage it to come together if for example, someone lives in the East Coast and someone in the West Coast. How do you manage it as national team to come together and train together as a team?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, it's interesting how like a resource like that can be also very challenging to, like you mentioned, like there's a lot of space between athletes a lot of times. Being you know, a larger country with a lot of resources, it's an advantage in some ways and a disadvantage in others, right? So the way that we try to keep our team together first is that we have a residency training program in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where several of our athletes live year round. So that helps. Like there's a core group of athletes who get an opportunity to train together a lot. And then for the athletes that are part of the team but not living in that program, there's several things that we do to keep all of us connected. We you know, communication on WhatsApp. We have a strength and conditioning program that we all follow. So a lot of those athletes have access to fitness centers and things like that. We have regular training camps where we will fly those people in, and you know, we work on different things together in those training camps. So we do our best to try to negate that. It's been a challenge for many years, but having the residency training program has really helped change that in the United States.
Yeah, okay. Now we come to the predictions for the Paralympic Games. And yeah, what do you expect as Team USA? If you look on the past of the Paralympic Games, in 2008, you were fourth place with a heartbreaking loss against Sweden in the bronze medal game. In 2012, you didn't qualify. And in 2016, you won the silver medal. What do you expect for the games in 2021? If you at first look on the past, and at second, if you look on your preparations in this time.
Well, I have a lot of respect for the nations that are going to be competing. I know that goalball itself, because I've been competing on the USA team since 2001, I've seen a lot of growth in the sport. And the teams that are competing, there's just a great elevation across the board of athleticism, of just speed and skill, strategy. So I have a ton of respect for the teams that we're going to be playing against. According to the world rankings, right now USA is ranked number 8 out of 10 on the world rankings, and of the teams that will be in Tokyo. Sure where that places us exactly, but you know, we have been training extremely hard. We've come together under a new coach, kind of a new system that we've been focusing on. Our guys are very fired up. We're very ready to go into Tokyo with more discipline, with more control, with more focus. And so, I mean, we want to come home with nothing less than the gold medal. And that is what we will be striving for. So my prediction is that we will do much better than what might typically be expected of our team.
Okay, yeah. You told that you play since 2001. That's 20 years so far. And yeah, in 20 years, everything will change. And yeah, what do you mean how the sport goalball changed since 2001 to now?
Oh, I mean, goalball has always been very competitive, right? But I think that many more nations now have taken goalball and made it into the elite sport that it's supposed to be, that it's always meant to be. There's so many more high-end athletes people who are very, very competitive. The game itself, right? I mean, you have some basic rule changes, increase in time, a few changes that have gone back and forth as far as the shot clock and things like that. But one of the biggest changes, right, is the fact that the game has kind of converted from a 2-dimensional to a 3-dimensional game, right? When I was playing in the earlier years, 2001, even in 2004, when we were in Athens, there was a few athletes who were experimenting with getting some elevation with the ball, getting some skip on their throw, but it wasn't very common. It just wasn't a normal thing. After China in 2008 kind of perfected that play, everybody started doing it, and now 90% of what is thrown in goalball is a very choppy, bouncy, skipping throw, right? So it's a very different game now. There's a lot more elements of strategy and movement. There's slow, high bouncing balls. There's fast skipping balls. There's still obviously a smooth, quick release. So the game is just grown and developed, and I think in very good ways over the last 2 decades.
Okay, yeah. And another question for this topic. You said you want to reach a gold medal, and yeah, for this goal, what do you mean? Which opponents will be the hardest opponents for reaching the goal?
Well, as I said before, every nation is there for a reason, and you might be able to argue strength of regions and things like that, and that's a fair argument. But the 10 teams that are there are all very good teams, right? And so every team is going to be competitive. Every team is somebody that we need to play our best against. If you had to stack them up, certainly Brazil and Lithuania are some of the top teams. Germany and Turkey are the others in the other pool that I would say are the biggest powerhouse teams. So I think those 4 are the ones that you'll most likely see in the final rounds, with us being in the mix, right? So that would be my prediction. But of course, China's historically a strong team. Ukraine is always a very steady team as well. So it's like it depends on who shows up and who plays their A game. Any team could really fight for that top position, I think.
Yeah, if we look on the opponents you mentioned Brazil, Lithuania, and Germany, and yeah, you already beat everyone. If I remember, Germany, you won 7-6 at the last Paralympic Games when you scored the goal for the 6-6, a deciding goal, and you also won against Brazil 10-1. It was, yeah, I didn't expect that then in 2016, I can tell you. And also against Lithuania in the last tournament in Trakai, you won in the final against Lithuania. And so, yeah, you don't have to be afraid about everyone. Or what do you think about that?
Yeah, again, there has to be a level of respect for all of those teams. They're very skilled, and they want to win as well, right? Historically speaking, Lithuania has beaten us many more times than we've beaten them. Brazil, we had a very good game against them in the semifinal match in 2016, but they remember that. They remember what that was like, losing that bad on their home turf. I don't think that they will make the same mistakes again. Germany has worked very, very hard since 2016 to be a more smarter team. So I don't take any of those teams lightly. We know that every single one of them will be a hard fought game. But I'm also very confident in our players. We are not the same team from 2016. We're not the same team from 2018 either. We've advanced ourselves in several different ways, and I think that several teams will be surprised about what we bring to the court.
Yeah. When we look on yourself, what do you expect of yourself at the Paralympic Games in 2021?
First, I expect myself not to break down because of all the years that I've been playing. My body isn't always. I'm not as young as I used to be, right? But I think that I am in the best condition that I've ever been in. I think that I have learned more about goalball in the last 2 years living in the residency program that has helped me a lot. I think that I have a lot of edge now. And the other thing that I think is different about our team now is the discipline that we found to play the game strong from beginning to end. So the psychology of the sport has grown a lot in the USA program. So I expect that I will make some mistakes, but I expect more often than not, I will play a strong game. I'll support my team. I'll make good blocks and saves, and I'm going to score some goals, and we're going to win games.
Yeah. Another question. You are there in your 4th Paralympic Games, and yeah, you've already seen everything when we talk about that you play since 20 years. And are you excited to play at the Paralympic Games, or do you mean, that's not the first time? I know all, and what's your opinion?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's always exciting. Otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it as long as I have. Goalball is an amazing sport. It's just so embedded in what I like to do, and I know you probably have an idea of what I'm talking about, right, Ernst? It's an amazing sport, and I love the competition. I very much enjoyed. I still get very excited about going and competing at that level, just to see the athleticism of my team and the other nations as well, and marching out into the stadium. This time may be different. I'm not sure, but marching out into a stadium of thousands of people and getting to play in front of that kind of crowd and wear your nation's colors, like it never gets old, and I'll do it as long as I can, as long as I can contribute to my team. I'm going to keep doing it.
And another question, because you already played 20 years, and at some point, the end of your career will come. Do you know when it will be? Do you have a fixed date where you say until then, and definitely I will end at this point? Or what do you mean about that?
I don't know. I honestly am not. Thought that I would be done after 2016, and I did. I stopped competing with the team for a couple of years, but I found that I missed it too much. I really wanted to keep doing it, and I'm not super young anymore, but I'm also not super old either. I'm in my late 30s. I still have good reactions and good strength. So I think that I'm going to take it 1 year at a time and see what my body does, and also my family. I've been married for 19 years. I have 4 children. I run a business. I do a lot of workshops and speaking events. So that sort of thing may prevent me from continuing at some well, so lots of variables. So all that to say,
You don't
yep.
have a fixed date where you say, for example, after 2022 World Championships, you say, no, after that, I definitely end my career, or that's not the thing.
No hard line, no hard dates. I'm just gonna see what life presents each year. So
okay, yeah. The last question is not about goalball in general, not about sports in general, but I ask that everyone I talk to. That's because of the COVID pandemic, and the Paralympic Games will be without spectators. And yeah, if you look on the European Championship in soccer, for example, they had 65,000 spectators in the semi-final game and the final game. And yeah, what's your opinion about that? Or at first, about the double standard, and at second, because of the safety of the people?
I want to be mindful of the challenge and the danger. I don't want anybody to get sick. I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I certainly don't want anybody to die from COVID. However, I think that panic, the worldwide shutdowns, and the things, I think they could have been handled better. I think that different approaches and measurements could be taken, and I think that a lot of times the decisions are made without realizing the impact that it has on the broader community, and I think specifically, in this case, specifically the athletes. The athletes, they train, some of them for their whole lives, for years and years and years, to compete at this level, to march into the stadium, to wear their nation's colors, and showcase their skills, and yet people very easily would say, yeah, we should just cancel the games. Well, that's so hard, because that is, you're taking away the opportunities that people have worked for a lifetime. And even the spectators, I feel for the Japanese nation, because they agreed to host these games obviously without knowing that this was going to be a world pandemic. And yet I believe they're going to host incredible games. But it's so sad that it seems like even their local people won't be able to join and watch the games. They won't be able to see it. Our athletes, we have 2 athletes on our team who this is their first competition. And like I said before, marching into a stadium where there's thousands of people just cheering and yelling, and it's amazing, right? It's an amazing experience, and they won't have that this time. It seems like I would assume they won't have that. And so it's really disappointing. It's really sad. You mentioned double standards. I think there is a lot of that in it, and it's very, very frustrating. It's, okay for this group to have fans, but not this group. And, it's very, very frustrating. I want people to be safe. I don't want anybody to get sick, but I think that so often the decisions that are made are more political than logical or medical. So that's just my thought on it. And I'm excited to go. I'm excited to compete. I think that Japan will do an amazing job hosting these games. I think the other nations are going to do a great job in competing. But I think it's marred, unfortunately, by these circumstances. And I hope the best for all of the athletes and the spectators as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, if you look on soccer, in soccer it's allowed to have spectators, and in goalball not, or in general, and the Paralympic Games. And if you also look, for example, in the US, they had a boxing fight of Canelo with 73,000 spectators.
Yep.
I know, and yeah, I can't understand that, but yeah,
I agree.
We can change it. So yeah.
Yep,
And
I agree.
what does it make with you as sports athlete? What does it make with your motivation as athlete if you know, yeah, in the end it doesn't matter what I do because no one watched it, and yeah, does it change your motivation to do your best?
No, it doesn't, because you know it's disappointing, but I don't compete for everybody else. And I don't mean that in like a mean or negative way, because I love my family and I love representing my country. But ultimately, I play and I train and I, beat myself up because I love to compete. I love the sport of goalball. And so even if there are 0 spectators, I'm going to enjoy it, and it's not going to dampen my motivation to go out there and win and do the best that I can do. But it is much richer and much more fun when there's a lot of people watching. That is for sure.
Okay, yeah. That's my last question. I don't have any questions. And if there is you want to tell in the end, you can do that.
I just appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for having me on. I've said it a few times. Goalball is, I think, the greatest sport out there. And anytime we can get more information out and get people learning about the sport and growing it, I think it's a great thing. So thank you for what you're doing, Ernst.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me, Tyler. And yeah, that's now the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, we will see how the Paralympic Games will run, if the USA will win the gold medal, what they wish to. And I wish you and the whole Team USA all the best to reaching what you want. And yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video, and we will meet next time. And until then, take care and goodbye.